Welcome to this explainer. Let's dive right into a really fascinating puzzle, the interlocking pieces of history. Today, we're going to explore exactly how geography, government, and economics fit together. Because, they don't just exist in isolation. They actually operate as one giant interactive system that actively shapes human history and, honestly, our everyday lives.
Have you ever stopped to wonder why wars actually happen? Or why economies suddenly just crash? Or why cities boom seemingly out of nowhere? Well, to solve these massive historical mysteries, we really need to look at three interconnected clues. You see, these huge events don't just happen by accident. They're entirely driven by the land we live on, the rules we create, and the ways we choose to trade.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The big three connect. 2. Geography shapes the map. 3. Government balances the power. 4. Economics drives the growth. And 5. Education requires biblical morality.
All right, part 1. The big three connect. Year-end star readiness.
Before we get into the nuts and bolts of human history and how societies actually function, we kind of have to start with this foundational biblical truth. Psalm 24:1 tells us, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it." This literally sets the perfect stage for everything we're going to study about the earth. It gives us a solid framework, reminding us that there's a grand design behind the land, the people, and the resources we're about to analyze.
Moving right along to part 2, geography shapes the map, the physical strategy.
Think about this simple but incredibly powerful phrase: control the river, control the war. Take the American Civil War, for instance. The Mississippi River wasn't just some body of water on a map. No way. It was the absolute ultimate strategic prize for both sides. It literally dictated the flow of everything.
Basically, whoever controlled the Mississippi gained massive, game-changing advantages. It dictated military superiority and granted complete economic dominance. It influenced exactly where people settled and acted as this massive natural highway. So geography doesn't just sit there passively. It actively dictates where people settle, trade, and even fight. It literally shapes historical outcomes.
Okay, part 3. Government balances the power, the rules of the game.
We've just seen how land creates opportunities, right? But we desperately need rules to ensure that human power doesn't just evolve into corruption. That is exactly where checks and balances come in. It's a system ensuring no single branch of government can take too much power. It was designed specifically to protect your individual rights by deliberately limiting what the government can actually do.
Think about it like this: unchecked power on one hand versus a restricted system of limits on the other. Without checks, one group easily just takes over. But with them, power is balanced out and liberty is preserved. Looking at it this way, we can easily understand why government structures are absolutely vital for a free society.
Next up, part 4. Economics drives the growth, supply and demand.
Picture the California gold rush for a second. You had these massive crowds of hopeful miners flooding into the area, basically a giant wave of buyers. But they were met with extremely limited resources and supplies to actually support them.
Now, what happens when buyers vastly outnumber supplies? Prices absolutely skyrocket. It is literally the ultimate example of supply and demand in action. Economics drives human choices, it drives patterns of growth, and it absolutely drives historical conflict when those resources get scarce. So bringing our three historical clues together, we get these incredibly important insights. Geography influences trade and defense, government structure protects rights, and economics explains growth and conflict. When you sit down for your STAR tests, you are definitely going to see questions that combine all three of these into a single scenario. You just have to remember, geography sets the board, government makes the rules, and economics drives the player's choices.
Finally, part 5. Education requires biblical morality, the HeroesMart Academy philosophy. The core philosophy here is kind of the master key to everything we've just learned today. It's simply this: intertwining biblical morality with education is absolutely essential. Why? Well, because education without morality will hurt. Separating academic knowledge from spiritual wisdom doesn't just leave a blank space, it actually leads to harm.
True peace of mind and lasting understanding really only come when we align our highly educated minds with these foundational spiritual truths. Romans 8:6 and 7 promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. Sure, knowledge is power, but spiritual wisdom, that's the compass that guides exactly how we use it.
All right, now it's your turn to connect the puzzle pieces. Let's do a quick mental check. Ask yourself, how did the Mississippi River impact the Civil War? What exactly are checks and balances? Can you give me one example of supply and demand from history? How does geography affect where people settle? And finally, why are these three connected in history? Tackling these questions is going to completely solidify your understanding and really help you ace those tricky star scenarios.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. What is the point of being smart and supposedly educated if you just continue to make choices that hurt yourself and others? Definitely keep that in mind as you continue to study history, geography, and economics.